now, going up against Donut. Now, Donut has Foxy, Jeff on their team as well as others. I need to go pull up the bracket real quick, or I'm sorry, the participants to see who it is that they're playing. And
You want to know who's on Team Donut?
I know, yeah, I know it. I know. Oh, wait. We'll
You don't
get
know
back
who's
to
Donut,
this.
dude? You don't know who Balances?
Oh my gosh, I forgot it was Balance. I knew there was a Windwalker Monk, but I thought it might have been Zion. Of course it's Balance. But anyway, let's jump back into this very first series because the Q has popped in the first map of this best of 5 series. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, is the Grand Arena. Alright, everybody, welcome to the Grand Arena. We have Cloud9 versus Hot Fire. Cloud9 chose to run that Holy Paladin God composition, while Hot Fire went for Jungle Cleave with Claws, Dillypoo, and Gex.
It's pretty smart. I know Cubsy's been practicing it quite a lot on Holy Paladin, so I think it's a smart decision to be running this into the Jungle Cleave. It did not look very safe for Naj's RMD. Already see an early trap on a Cubsy, Dillypoo landing that full Wyvern Sting out of it. A trap on a Wealthy Man, good cross CC, forcing Cubsy to trinket and bop that Murder of Crows off, and trying to deal with the Incarnation as well. But now we see Claws moving forward, maybe looking for a clone onto Cubsy. Managed to lock him on his heel as well. That Blessing Protection is going to be fading. Gorecki still under an immense amount of pressure, down at 38% HP. Cubsy popping his Avenging Wrath now, trying to spam out some empowered heals here at the moment. I think Gex was actually able to immediately dispel that Hodge, and the coordination is lacking a little bit from Cloud9 early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Gorecki is just taking so much damage, and the damage in the CC on Akubzi has been consistent into a half fear, and Gorecki, that is for sure going to be the disperse, as well as the overlap with the Save by the Light, but it's going to get cloned up at low health. That Save by the Light is going to fade eventually, and he could be vulnerable to a swap outside of that. There it is. The clone goes down. Gorecki still taking a whole bunch of pressure. Can Kubzi avoid all the CC? He gets interrupted with that Typhoon from Claws, but Claws is the one who's in a little bit of trouble. He gets horrified into a Hodge. He's going to trinket that and survive and use his wall for now to avoid more damage in that setup.
Now, Gorecki has no dispersion, so he could be in a lot of trouble here. Cubsy sitting through a full bash. Dillypoo chaining that into the Wyvern Sting. Maim stun over onto Gorecki. If Dillypoo and Claws can connect, they might be able to take him down. A full fear now landed onto Cubsy. Gorecki not able to Mass Dispel it, forcing the bubble out from Cubsy, and the final Blessing of Protection. Mass Dispel comes out, removing Cubsy's bubble there. Sounds over onto Claws, maybe trying to stop a Cyclone. We see the Deep Freeze onto Gex. Can Wealthy Man land the Sheep? He's going for it. Actually, a fear instead onto Gex. A lot of pressure onto Claws. He has no trinket for this Hodge that is about to ensue. He actually got rooted on the life grab. Gex gets re-polyed. The Hodge is going to sit here full. He might need to use a Survival Instincts charge here. He's trying to hold on to it. Now popping the Tiger's Fury. Claws going in aggressive onto Gorecki at the moment. Cubsy pre-sacrificing the fear here. It should potentially break, but the Power Word Shield is actually absorbing damage, so it's not going to break immediately. Now Cubsy forced to use his Avenging Wrath. That's really his last line of defense here to survive against Hot Fire.
No bops, no bubble, no wings for another minute. I mean, Gorecki, if I was him, I would be very scared at the moment. Still 30 seconds left on my disperse at this point, but Claws is just eating these setups over and over. Gex now putting that full fear. The Hodge lands on Claws. He has no way out of this. No wall out of this as well. This is going to be it. Claws will go down, and Cloud9 is going to take game number 1 of this best of 5. You know, I really didn't see that happening. I saw the amount of momentum that they had, but that's all it takes. They got to just get that trinket, and boom, they're in it to win it. And Claws wasn't able to survive that last setup. I mean, he had no trinket, no wall available to them, and Gex also without the trinket as well. I don't know.
Shaky from Cloud9 for like the first minute and a half. Like, that's how I would expect God Comp to go against Jungle towards the end of that, but for the beginning part of it, it seemed like they were kind of scrambling to try and find what they needed to do. So it's good that they were able to figure it out there, because that was about to be the end of the line in terms of their defensive cooldowns.
Yeah, like I said, right before that occurred, I was like, if I was Gorecki, I'd be scared right around now. And apparently he had no reason to, because they just turned that around. They knew they just got the trinkets they needed to do. They got the defensive cooldowns they needed to make that setup work, and boom. Something to note is that they're all clumped up, so both of these Priest Fears have been getting multiple targets over and over and over again. And I'm not really sure who gives the advantage in that scenario. I mean, in that scenario, it seemed like it was pretty helpless for Claws as the triple CC was going out, and no one was able to help him on that setup. But I don't know. This is just game number 1 of a best of 5 series, everybody. So I'm interested to see what compositions we're going to be seeing in game number 2, as well as map choices. And as soon as we get those decisions, we will tell you. But for now, we're just going to have to wait and see. You know, honestly, coming out from the jungle cleave, as they do have the map choice, or whatever they want to do if they want to run Cupid as well, they also are going to be able, the loser of the first round is also going to be able to know what composition Cloud9 is going to be playing. So they're going to go ahead and choose Dalaran Sewer, so a smaller map, you know, especially for like a melee cleave that might benefit you a bit because it's just less distance to be able to connect to your target. But what do you think about that map choice?
I'm curious to see if they're going to be running jungle again to determine whether or not this might be a good pick. I thought maybe Evangeline would be a good swap in if they know that they're fighting Holy Paladin Shatter. Obviously, They don't think it is, so they're going to be running jungle again. Maybe they're going to pressure Cubsy a little bit. He is playing an alt, so they might want to try and exploit that, maybe pressure him a little bit more. Greki's pretty seasoned on a lot of characters, so you're not going to catch him off guard by any means. So maybe potentially might be a problem, but
yeah.
Jungle Cleave is definitely capable of killing a healer. I'm sure from anyone's experience on the ladder with a Jungle Cleave on your healer is probably one of the scarier experiences in WoW Arena, so I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to get through Cubsy's trinket or his bubble or his wings or something going on a DPS that maybe they're going to swap around this time.
Yeah, I mean, and Gex looks really confident with his massive spells too, if I'm honest. So getting those massive spells off in the nick of time to be able to make those swaps onto the Holy Paladin definitely seems possible for this team. But we're going to go ahead and re-queue the game. Probably just a quick malfunction, something to do with their interface or something silly like that. But just to reiterate the rules, you guys are able to leave the match, or I'm sorry, the game, before the gates open, and it can be a replay. But as soon as those gates open, there are no replays. No leeway here. Better get protected. But of course, if they do end up leaving, they have to stay the same composition as well as the same map choice. Everything essentially has to stay the same. And here we go. We're going to jump right into Dalaran Sewers. I'll see you guys in just 1 minute. Alright, here we go, everybody. 30 seconds until these gates open. We have Hotfire versus Cloud9, game number 2 in GPL number 1. Now, Cloud9 currently has 1 win against Hotfire, but, I mean, that being said, Hotfire, it looked like they had a crazy amount of momentum going into game number 1, so I'm interested to see what happens in game number 2. Maybe if they just, I don't know, nitpick a few things.
Thing. You don't see Priest jungle almost ever.
Right.
So it could also just be that Cloud9 isn't used to fighting it, so they needed to figure out how it feels, where it plays. But now after taking a win, I think they're going to feel pretty confident moving forward. Dillipu actually landing a nice flare, pulling Wealthy Man out of stealth, as well as Greg. He's not going to be able to spectral guys. Now rooting both of them behind the box. Claws looking like he wants to find his target. Full bash onto Cubsy. Dillipu looking to Wyvern Sting him out of that. Full Wyvern Sting lands. Trap over onto Wealthy Man. He's actually going to trinket that into a full fear. Incarnation gets popped onto Gorecki. A lot of burst following it up. Blessing of Protection out from Cubsy to remove that Murder of Crows. Double fear onto Claws and Dillipu. Deep freeze Poly onto Gex. Now the setup is going to come in onto Claws. A lot of damage potentially here into the full Fist of Justice. Where's the damage? They need the burst now. Wealthy Man chaining the polys together, but Gex managed to get a Holy Fire in between. He's going to break himself out of that polymorph chain. Well done from Gex.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good job from Dillipu as well, using that Roar Sacrifice on that setup. It stops a lot of that mage's damage. But here we go. Gex is still not out of the water just yet. He's going to Shadow Meld and get that stun off onto Gorecki, but he's catching a Hand of Sacrifice from Kubzi at this point. And I mean, like, both teams are doing a great job, like, stopping a lot of that offensive pressure. But I think it's going to be it's going to be a bigger deal for Cloud9 to stop that pressure, especially because Incarn is such a long offensive cooldown, and they stopped it quite a bit. Here's the Horrify onto Claws, the Deep Freeze onto Gex, and he's just going to press that pain suppression. He's not going to risk it for now. But Gorecki is in a lot of trouble still as Kubzi is put into that stun. He's going to trinket out of that. Gorecki now in the main. Wealthy Sock into that full Cyclone. Saved by the Light is going to proc onto Gorecki. And it looks like both teams are just trading blow for blow at this point.
Yeah, Murder of Crows up onto Gorecki. I'm surprised Cubsy hasn't bopped that off immediately. He does go into the full fear. They lock him on the Master Spell. This could be the dispersion out from Gorecki. Cubsy going into that full trap. There's the dispersion now out from Gorecki. Cubsy has to bubble as well. Gorecki's still under fire even through the dispersion. But Claus
Uh-oh.
leaps. He overextends. He has to trinket out of the Hodge. He's down at 1% HP. Gex has to use his trinket now as well. And Claus's overextension there almost cost him his life. They are going to stay alive for a little bit longer here. Cubsy has his Avenging Wrath, though. He should be able to pick up Gorecki here very shortly. Now popping it, topping off Gorecki. No trinkets, only one bop remaining here. Basically, the first team to get CC is probably going to be the one that wins right now.
Yeah, that was so crazy. Gorecki was just about to dead. No dispersion available to them, and Kubzi was having a hard time healing through all that. But still, they turned it around on him. And now Claus wants to get offensive. He wants to push in, but Gex is in a full polymorph into the Horrify on Claus. Claus has no trinket left. He has a wall if he's able to survive out of it. But he goes into the full Hodge. He wasn't able to get the wall up in time. Can they land the kill right here, right now? Gex put into the full fear. The wall is up, but he's at no health. Can he survive through this? The half poly lands now. Claus at 3% health here, and surely he will go down, and Cloud9 is going to take game number 2, and they are just one win away from advancing into the winner's bracket and pushing Hotfire down into that loser's bracket.
Yeah, that overextension really, it cost Gex's trinket and Claus's trinket, so they already got the cooldowns. I don't think he really needed to go that far in. I feel like Hotfire is actually so close to winning, and then just like they get robbed on the last couple seconds of the game.
I mean, it really can go, like, it's a 2-0 right now, but it really can go either way. It's pretty incredible, the game so far. But here we go, guys. We're going into potentially the last game of this series. Hotfire needs to 3-0 Cloud9 at this point if they want to take the win of the series here. And it's going to be a hard road. It's a hard road ahead of them. But, I mean, they are performing quite well. If any team could do it, it's definitely these guys. These guys are looking great. And, I mean, in the qualifiers, they were so strong. The Ret Paladin Hunter Discipline Priest against RMD. And then this Jungle Cleave versus the God Comp last night did quite well. So, we shall see. We shall see. I'm interested to see what they're going to choose for a map. I mean, I feel like at this point, you have to take into consider Ruins of Lordaeron. Because, I mean, it's just so close, but as we've seen time and time again, it can backfire, and they know that. They're going to go ahead and choose Tolvaron Arena instead, a much larger map. What do you think about that map choice?
I mean, I don't know if there's really a map advantage in this kind of composition.
Yeah,
I feel like Tolvaron might not be the best option. Like, the same reason that Claus had to trinket and Gex had to trinket was because he was too far away. So Tolvaron is going to create that gap just the same way. So I don't know if this is necessarily the best pick. I would like to see Evangeline play a game just because I don't see Red Hunter Priest versus Holy Paladin God Comp ever, so I don't know if it's like 100% in favor of one team, but I would just like to see it. I think that they'd have maybe a bit more pressure on Wealthy Man as opposed to Gorecki, but they obviously don't think that it is very strong if they're not going to substitute him in here on potentially their final game.
Yeah, and the final game is going to be played out on Tolvaron Arena, guys. Alrighty, guys, welcome to Tolvaron Arenas. It's Hotfire versus Cloud9. No composition swaps have occurred at all. Hotfire is confident in their Jungle Cleave, or at least they don't think the Ret Hunter composition has as big a shot as their Jungle Cleave, but they're potentially on their last game of the series here.
They were up 2 trinkets. They still had a survival instincts charge. They were actually such a good spot. And then that one setup from Claus is just jumping out of line of sight kind of robbed them of their victory. So I think if Hotfire can keep a level head, play the same consistency that they are in the earlier parts of the games, that they could definitely take games off of Cloud9, maybe even win 3 in a row, because that's what they're going to have to do if they want to continue in the winner's bracket.
Yep. That's what they're going to have to do. Claus is doing something a lot different this time around. He's actually staying really, really far back. In the other 2 games, he actually pushes in and gets that initial stun, and he's the initiator. So it's interesting to see, but now it looks like he's going to be pushing in. He's going to go back to it, but he just seems so much more cautious this time around. It looks like they're going to take positioning into a big consideration here, but here we go. The stun goes out onto Gorecki, the bash onto Kubzi, and Gorecki looks like it's going to be the kill target again. Ooh, the silence on Claus's Cyclone to stop up that CC. The Horrify on the Claus, and he's out in the middle of the map in the open out here. He knows he's in trouble. He knows he's in a weird position. He's looking for some line of sight, but Gex has him A-okay for now. Gorecki still the kill target. Crows is going to be popped onto Gorecki. He knows he's about to take a lot of damage, and he's staying close to that pillar.
Yeah, but I like that. Cubsy knows that he doesn't need to bop this. He's saving the bop to use it with Incarnation and Murder of Crows, so he can heal through this without even using any cooldowns at the moment. Might need to use the Avenging Wrath, though. Still full bleeds out from Claus, and Claus is being much more cautious this time to not run out of line of sight of Gex here. Now with the full clone onto Wealthy Man, maybe he's going to decide to push in. Cubsy pre-sacrificing the trap. Wow. It does break, so well done, Cubsy, reading that trap from Dillypoo and breaking that CC up, and now he goes into the full Maim stun. Is Claus going to look for a clone? They land the fear instead, but that's going to break immediately. I'm curious as to why that broke immediately. Now Claus getting set up on. We see the pre-pain suppression and barrier from Gex on the Claus. This should reduce all of the damage coming in on this setup. Well done.
Yeah, all of that damage indeed. The Hodge is going to fade finally. Gex still into some CC. Dillypoo also cross CC'd, and that's going to force the wall as well out of Claus here. But at the same time, they have not forced even a disperse out of Gorecki, but they did get an offensive clone out of Wealthy Man. Maybe he could potentially be another target, but the Werven Sting is going to land on the Kubzi, and there is the bop coming out from him to counteract that Incarnation from Claus. And no, that's a big deal. Now they're trying to spread that pressure around. They're trying to hit something. Looks like they're going to swap over onto Kubzi with that Incarnation, try to knock him down a peg, but he does have that wings up, but because of that, he's gonna have to pop Aura Mastery. So good job getting another defensive cooldown. But here's the setup: the Horrify into Hodge. He triggers the Horrify, and the full Hodge lands, and he will go down. Crazy setup by Cloud9. I'm gonna go ahead and get a replay of that for you guys, but that was an intense setup. That trinket, man, that trinket, if he just saved it another second, he may have survived and got that wall off there.
I don't know if that's the case. The main reason why Feral Druids actually end up going down to like this composition specifically is that once you dip below, I believe, 35% health, you proc the Shadow Priest Twist of Fate, and it increases his damage significantly. So when you're below 35%, I'm not sure if it's Shadow Word Death if that triggers it, but if you're getting DPS below 35%, the Shadow Priest gets a huge boost in damage, which counteracts at least half of the
He was already there
well
before the first trinket, so you're absolutely right, yeah.
So Gorecki's damage just scales up insanely high when he gets even lower health, so you kind of just get bursted down through your cooldowns. That's why you have to preemptively use them. That's why we saw Gex using the Pain Sup even before the damage happened. He has to kind of preemptively wall and predict the damage if he doesn't want to go down that fast.
Yeah. All right, there we have it, everybody. Cloud9 is going to go ahead and advance and knock down Hot Fire to this loser bracket, but that being